Good afternoon on the Empty Skull Ranch. Today we are accompanied by an array of sounds from down over yonder in the field next door. Sounds like they're doing some kind of hydraulic hammering over there, so bear with us. We're going to have a little bit of noise introduction. But today I have a brown box. Yep, a brown box to show you guys. Inside of which is the Dan Wesson model number 11. All right. All right, everybody. Now let's take a closer look at the Dan Wesson model number 11. I'm going to sleaze around this table here and give you guys a closer look at this box. Look at that. They don't make them like that anymore. And smells like old library books. So let's see what is included in this package. All right, before we delve too deep into this particular piece, let's give a little bit of a brief history on Dan Wesson. All right, as we know, Smith & Wesson, D.B. Wesson, co-founded Smith & Wesson back in 1852, and it was over 100 years later that his grandson, Dan Wesson, founded Dan Wesson Firearms, or Wesson Firearms, out of Munson, Massachusetts, actually, so right here up in New England. So actually they took over a abandoned, or I don't want to say abandoned, but a decommissioned schoolhouse to start their production line in 1968. So this model number 11 was one of their early variants. This particular piece, I believe, was a 1970. The literature in here is dated back to 1970. Everything leads me to believe by the production years that this model number 11 is in fact 1970. How many more times can I say 1970? Anyway, again, I apologize for that obnoxious sound over there, but we're gonna make do with what we got. Alrighty, so basically the model number 11 was introduced, and you know, it was actually a strong he had a strong influence, or you know, it was a Carl Lewis that actually worked with Browning and designed some of the more modular firearms of the time for military and for law enforcement uses. Actually had the Trooper 357 that was a springboard kind of for this platform. It has the ability, which, as you know, revolvers, the barrel is the barrel, but this one you can change the barrels out. And so, I mean, you'd think that that would be a cool feature to have, along with a very accurate, when I say very accurate revolver, but you'd think that that'd be a cool feature. Actually, you know, sales didn't quite reflect that, and the consumer opinion was among that it just wasn't pretty. It's not a pretty looking revolver. I mean, I think it's kind of cool looking, you know, because of its, you know, just the innovative design and all that on this guy. I think it's kind of a cool feature. But so you figure you got this big star nut right at the end of the barrel that you take out to take the pork chop off the barrel shroud. And they also relocated where the release is for the cylinder. So instead of having the typical revolver where you push in the back and you pop the cylinder out, this one you push down on this lever, and it's a very tight action, and then the cylinder pops out thusly. So verify we are unloaded for this portion of the exercise anyway. And nice positive interlock. Oh boy, that's crisp. That sounds real nice. I just love the sound of a nice mechanical interlock on a piece of machinery like this. I gotta say, these revolvers, contrary to the public, you know, opinion of them not being so pretty, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's just kind of cool look. But anyway, they later did evolve the design to kind of hide that star nut on the end of it to give it a little bit more of a clean appearance. So, but this video is about the model number 11, and I will show you some pictures of the later models that came up, like, and also, all right. Anyway, back to the model number 11. So here we go. Let's delve a little bit deeper into what makes this guy tick. Like I was saying, this whole packaging smells like old library books, but it is an original Survivor with the original tool. Comes complete with a feeler gauge so you can set the barrel down into the frame. And 357 was kind of the chosen caliber for the Dan Wesson line. You know, they really liked that cartridge. But later on, I think in 1980, they branched out to a larger frame 44 Magnum version. But anyhow, let's see what we got in here. So this little envelope contains our barrel tool. I don't want to lose this stuff. And check these out. This is what would have come with your Dan Wesson revolver when you purchased it. Look at barrel assemblies, any length, $25. Grips, combat target, $9. $6 for the inlet blank. So, got a couple different grips you can choose from. This one being the combat grip that this guy's got. But look at this, huh? Look at 8/1/1970 right on there. So it also comes complete with a few stray rounds floating around in there. But the instructions, gotta love that late 60s, 70s type of way they illustrated these. It's funny, they show this step is step 1, but then step 2 involves taking the barrel off. Something doesn't quite jive with that. But anyway, let's take this thing apart and see what it looks like when it's in its basic elements. Put this on so the wind doesn't come up and take those away. Also figured I'd use this time to debut one of my new designs from the Empty Skull Ranch Forge. This guy right here. These will be available shortly as soon as I can get back into production and start making some of these guys. So anybody out there is interested in these guys, give me a shout in the comment box. All right, going in to put this guy to the side so I don't fumble around with it. So basically, we've already established that this is a very tight lockup on this. This gun, I believe, was never fired when I got this. It really doesn't seem like it was. There was nothing to indicate inside that this was ever really used. So this guy right here goes right onto here. You find, and boy, is it tight. All right, there we go. So that was a little tight. So we don't need that on there for the rest of that. You take this guy off right here and you place it to the side. That is the star nut for the end. As you can see, now this whole thing, they call it a pork chop, slides right off of the end. Put that guy to the side. Nice deep bluing in these. I gotta say, that's another thing they were known for, is the deep bluing. So then you can take this guy off just as a matter of unthreading it. Look at how fine those threads are. So here we go. After going through and through and through, that is your Dan Wesson 357 Magnum barrel. You can kind of see down the end of here and give you guys a look at it, but you can run a bore brush down there and clean this barrel out quite effectively when you don't have it attached to the firearm. So anyway, the rest of this stuff, the crane slides forward. Once you pull this guy like that, you can slide that forward and out comes the cylinder. Just don't lose that spring. So when you go to put it back in, just make sure that detent is in there. Slide that guy right back into where it's supposed to go and give it a clipperoo. Let's hear that nice lockup again. See that nice, roll that beautiful bean footage. All right, get that a little closer. There we go. That nice lockup on there. So also this grip comes off by using this guy, and you just give it a nice little twist, and your grips come off with the twist of a tool. Let's see if this nut is on its way out of here. I mean, this bolt. These things have a lot of threads on them, which is not a bad thing. You want to make sure you have a nice smooth contact surface, but look at that bluing. And look at how modular and compact this design is right here. It has, where normal double action revolvers would have a long flat spring, this was a compact little stub here that has a coil inside of it, a nice tight little coil in there. So that's actually present in Carl Lewis's design on the Trooper 357. And it also allowed for a lot more creative license when you're making these grips, because now you're not pigeonholed to a shape on the frame that flat spring has to mount to. Sky's the limit. You can design some real wild grips, and I mean, for 1970, that was about as wild as it gets. They're combat wooden grips. So anyway, slide that guy into place just like so. Nice positive lockup in there even before it's tightened. That doesn't wobble, weeble, or anything. And start the process of threading that guy back in. And let's do the barrel tightened, and setting the gap. So I want to make sure that's nice and tight. Feels good. Now take this guy right here. Make sure you get the chamber end in first. That's the longer patch of threads. A lot of times with revolvers, you have a long jump between the cylinder and the barrel, and that does actually affect your accuracy, because if you're not entering immediately into your barrel, you have a little bit of variance there, a little bit of wobble almost, and it's all about how your spin starts. So as soon as I start seeing it, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it come in there, but as soon as that barrel enters, there we have it coming in. Now we're going to set it as close as we can while using this guy to get our gap just right. There we go. It's just kissing that thing right now. Back it off just a little bit so we can slide that nicely between there. Only a small little patch of light coming through there. So that's about right where we want it. Maybe a fraction of a twist for good luck. And now we're going to take the pork chop, the barrel shroud. Now obviously with different barrel lengths, you got different shrouds and different barrels. So slide that on there without twisting it too much, because we don't want to affect how close that is and bring it out of spec. In fact, we're going to check it again to make sure by doing that we didn't. No, we're nice and tight, but you can slide that in and out with ease. So let's get this guy started on its path. There we go, line up those threads just right. And every step of the way on this guy, we are going to check that gap to make sure we haven't intruded on that cylinder, because we don't want it so close that it actually interferes with the operation. And still able to slide it in there with a little bit of resistance. So we're going to take this guy and do one more twist for good luck and give it a nice positive lockup. We don't want this thing coming loose while we're firing. So there we go, nice positive lockup, and make sure we can still slide this guy in there. Make sure there's still light coming up between there. Best way you can check that is by giving this guy a turn. Oh yeah, it actually got a little tighter, but not by much. You're still able to go nice and fluid between here without having any kind of disruption. So I'm going to double check that's nice and tight, and we're going to take this guy and tuck it right behind the Allen wrench feature on there and stick this back in here, because I know myself too well I will lose it if I don't do this. So put that right back in its case, put it in there, and we're going to take this down range and shoot a couple of targets with it. All right, here we are at the Empty Skull Ranch Proving Range, where firearms are tested and critiqued, analyzed, developed. R&D, everything happens in this hub. Oh, no, actually, this is just a backyard shooting range. All right, so we're gonna make sure that this guy remains pointed down the range at all times. You got your eyes and ears on, all that 9 yards. I know I'm like the safety panda when it comes to this stuff, but I can't stress enough, like my old man taught me when I was a kid, range safety. You gotta know you have a lot of power in your hand to do a lot of bad things, so you gotta be responsible with it. So anyway, now that that disclaimer is all done with, let me throw some ears in and get us going on the shoosting. All right, as you can see downrange, kind of silly looking in that pedestal, I have a zucchini that never got used from this harvest. And then there's another little zucchini down there. Actually, they're quite monstrous. They're about 1.5 feet long. So I didn't have any watermelons, so I got those. I got a silhouette target, and I got something else. So let's give this a whirl. First on the silhouette, let's see how accurate this guy is. All right. Firearm is hot, pointed down range. All right, going for the silhouette, center mass. That surprises you. That is a very slick trigger. All right, let's check out the group that we got. That first one kind of surprised me a little bit, so let's go down and see how crappy my shooting is today. All right, so basically we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 5 and 6 are through the same hole. So kind of just kicking the dust off. Let's do another 6 and see if we can bring it in a little bit. Righty, here we go, load it up. And I gotta say, that trigger pull is like butter. Also, the 357, I believe, is quite the underappreciated round. Packs a lot of punch, and definitely it's a good round, especially when fired from a carbine. But in a revolver, I think it's a pretty harmonious fit, because it's not enough to break your wrist, and it's not enough to cause the thing to jerk violently, but you know it's there and it's got a report, and you can sure slow something down with it. So let's see if we can draw that in a little bit. And boy, that single action feature on this guy is very smooth. Making it hot. All right, that was a little bit more rapid in succession. Put it down on our pistol bench and go take a look. All right, we definitely kept in the same area. I can see that trail kind of going off in the Not really noticing. Don't worry about that little guy. All right, just don't worry about that guy. That guy either. Don't think about him. A lot of these guys going through the same holes from the previous rounds, so it's making it a little bit harder to count. But I should have brought a marker out so that I can make little hashes on them and all that. But either way, you're going to put rounds into something that's a threat regardless. So let's try for one of these guys. Zook 1 and Zook 2. Actually never shot a Zook, so I don't know if they actually pop or do anything cool. Find out, I guess. Take a chunk out of it. Bit of side out of it. Actually not as... All right, let's continue taking chunks out of this guy. Let it rain. It's actually not that bad because it's a gift that keeps on giving, you know, like you can shoot these guys. Let's try the one down low. Swing it in to see the carnage within. Ew. Gross. Yeah. All right, anyway, that guy down there cut cleanly in half. Let's see, did we get right in front of it? Or, I haven't quite figured out the hold on this guy. Some have a 6 o'clock hold, some of them have a direct bullseye. This guy, I'm not quite sure. I feel like it's got a little bit of a side shimmy on it, so you got to go 6 o'clock into the side, and that's about where the hold is. So, let's get some more lead down range. I gotta say, something real satisfying about stuffing rounds into a 357. It's just, I don't know, I like it. It feels deliberate, calculated, and you know what your objective is. I feel like it's something that's lost in the world of semi-autos. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my semi-autos, my 1911s and such, but something about the feel, like I said, positive lockup on that cylinder is awesome. All right, I'm gonna go down a little bit and see if we can get that guy. You know what? I think we already might have. Looks a little half full, doesn't it? Anyway, gonna go a little bit downrange and see what we get. Look at that. These rounds travel quite quickly. Because look at that. Didn't even knock this thing down. It just full of holes. Full of holes. Yeah. But it stayed standing. I guess fruit punch really wasn't the best thing to use, but it was what I had hanging around. So anyway, let's put this back here and let it do its thing. But not the explosion I was hoping for, but kind of cool to prove the speed at which this round travels. So let's throw some more into that silhouette. All right, I'm gonna go further back and leave you guys right here zoomed in on the target because I didn't mark them, of course, so that way you can see where the hits are. I'm gonna try to do not quite a rapid fire, but I'm gonna try to aim a little bit and see where we can put these. Doing the where is the round so I can see, kind of testing the old reflexes. We are empty. I like to do that every now and again, throw a live round in there with a bunch of dead ones, so that way it kind of gives you a little bit of exercise on the whole recoil anticipation factor. So that way it's, you know, you can see exactly what you're doing if the hammer strikes and what your hands do if it doesn't fire. Good exercise to do. I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. You know, that's just a common drill. But it's good to do that from time to time to make sure that you're still kind of at your best. So it's just, it keeps you honest with yourself. Keeps you honest with yourself. Old reliable workhorse here, my 73 John Deere JD 300. Love this tractor. Absolutely love this tractor. But anyway, I'd like to cap off this video with a just overview, performance evaluation, shall we say, on this guy. And I did notice, I think I put that, remember when that barrel snug up just that little extra bit? There's a reason they give you that feeler gauge, because do not neglect it. Because I noticed a few times when I was doing the double action, the hammer was having a hard time coming up, and I thought it was something wrong with the mainspring. But it ended up being because this gap is, dare I say, too tight. Because as you fire, it causes the casing to expand a little bit and to go backwards, thus moving your cylinder a little bit more snug, because there is a little bit, not much, but just that little tiny bit will cause friction as you're trying to, you know, cycle the next round. So as you're pulling back the hammer and that interfaces with that just a little bit, it's enough to gum up the works. Other than that, I gotta say, you know, if that was not an issue with this, the single action feature on this guy, I mean, works terrific. The machining, also noticed as I was shooting, but look at the machining on that hammer. I mean, that's just crisp. It's you know, this guy has not been used a lot. This a very easy life of sitting inside of a box for the last God knows how many years, but still cycles, operates, and look at the matte feature on the top right here to offset the bluing. Just overall a very pretty gun. I mean, as far as the bluing goes and all that. I know the star nut and the barrel shroud right here, maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but I think for the time period, functionality being kind of the key equation here with Carl Lewis's design, you know, he helped out a lot of guys, Colt, Browning, you know, you name it. It was a lot of his designs were featured all over the place. So definitely want to say it is a very comfortable shooter. It is a fun shooter. I mean, I could have gone on all day shooting this guy, probably readjust that barrel nut a little bit and just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. This does not kick like a mule. It actually absorbs a lot of that recoil just because of the sheer weight of this thing. This is a piece of machinery. This they don't make them like this anymore. Like this is no hole, no Hillary hole, so they call it. This is back in the days of real firing pins, real revolvers. Just this is, you know, Dirty Harry days. You know, back when revolvers were kind of what they were. You know, it was I want to say it was like the golden age for revolvers. You know, they were still being used by police. They were still featured in movies a lot. And there was just that little bit of a romance with the revolvers that has kind of dwindled over time. You know, now we have our 50 Express Desert Eagles. We got all these tactical semi-automatic pistols with laser beams and lights and gadgets and gizmos. But don't get me wrong, I'm not dumping on tactical handguns. I like them myself. I have a couple in my collection and I enjoy them. I like a Glock, I like a 1911, but revolvers always hold a soft spot in my heart because it's just something more intimate about the use of a revolver. You feel like you're more connected with the machinery. It's something about holding that wood and steel, that just, it's just, let me know in the comment box if any of you guys feel the same way, have the same special spot reserved for revolvers, even though these new firearms and all that have come about the scene are present. But just let me know what you're thinking, what you guys think of the design on this. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say, if you're yay or nay on how this just looks aesthetically, because they went through a lot of R&D to try to tidy it up a little bit, to make it a little bit more palatable for the market. So model number 11, 1970, it's just, there it is, unapologetic, and here we have it. Alrighty guys, we'll see you next time on the Empty Skull Ranch for some 1911 action. Oh yeah, I got something real cool to show you guys. Alright guys, fellow ranchers and ranchettes, see you next time on the Empty Skull Ranch.